to the end of the multiple myeloma. Yeah. And so I'm going to step forward a little bit so you can see my T-shirt, adjust my glasses. The words on the front says, "The path to a cure." The path to a cure. And I chose to wear this shirt this morning because I wanted to share from one of the participants a story about the multiple myeloma. But before doing that, I want to welcome our audience and our friends and our family that are joining us via Facebook and on our YouTube channel. I invite you to like, subscribe, and share. Do that up front. And then I'll remind you at the end to like, subscribe, and share so that we can continue to spread the good news of love that is prevalent throughout the world. We are a metaphysical philosophy teaching the principles and practices of science of mind. We're a philosophy of faith and a way of life. And we're beginning our May theme. I didn't update my notes. We're beginning our May theme, which is divine doubt. And our topic for today is self-doubt as a starting block. So whenever we launch one of these series, we attempt to establish a foundation that is going to be built on for the remainder of the series. And so yesterday, as I was describing a little bit earlier, I participated in a walk for multiple myeloma, and one of the survivors shared a story that really registered with me, and I thought it was just so in alignment with what our talk is for today on this area of doubt. And she began by sharing her story of when she was diagnosed with the disease. And it brought back memory of her father who had died from multiple myeloma. And because of the lack of research and tools that were available at the time of her father's process, she remembered the agony that he went through and the pain and all of that. And so those memories, even though it had been some time since her dad had transitioned, those memories were still alive within her. And that was the reference point that she had, that she would struggle, that she would have been in a lot of pain and all of that. So these feelings of doubt and fear became almost debilitating until a friend of hers invited her to a support group meeting. And that support group changed the whole trajectory of her life around this particular disease. Here is where she found community. Here is where everyone was free to openly express their doubts, their fears, along with their successes. And I relate this to the teachings of science of mind and to the communities that we form. We come together, we bring our fears, we bring our doubts, we bring whatever is up for us. And it is here that we find the brave space where we're welcomed, where we are loved, where we're acknowledged, and where we get the support to know that you don't have to do this by yourself. And in the words of that Amber shared with us from Kurt Franklin this morning, it is remembering that self-doubt is a part of the life experience. From the teachings of science of mind, and hearing this participant story reminds me of the reading for May in our Science of Mind magazine, the very first day of May, which was Friday. And the writer this month is Reverend Christine Green. If you don't have a copy of the magazine, I encourage you to sign up online to receive either the digital or the printed copy of it. Reverend Christine's writings this month are outstanding, along with all of the other writings, but some of them resonate with me a little bit more than others. So Reverend Christine writes this about doubt and fear. And she says she was sitting on her front porch and she was watching the squirrels gather nuts and leaves, and they're storing them away for later. And this is a two-part story. So the first part is she's sitting on her front porch. The second part of the story is later in the day, she's in her car and she's watching a squirrel scurrying back and forth through the traffic. And I've been in those situations where they say, is this squirrel going to make it? And, do I pause? Do I cause an accident on behalf of the squirrel? Or I see some smiles, so we've all had this experience. And so she does acknowledge that the squirrel narrowly missed his demise, but did escape successfully. And so the takeaway for me from these two lessons is that the first lesson is an observation that focuses on divine guidance, to gather more information to support us on our journey. So as we're gathering information to store it up for our future use, we are tapping into the divine guidance that is a part of who we are. And the lesson from the second observation of the squirrel scurrying back and forth is a focus on the emotional stirrings that bring ambivalence, anxiety, and mistrust, doing several things at once without accomplishing anything and feeling exhausted. And did that describe me to a T? I could not believe how on point this was. And I started to think about, okay, even when I find myself watching TV, I'm playing a game on my tablet. And then I wind up rewatching the program or rewinding the program to see what I missed. And then the tablet goes blank because I've ignored it. And so I am reshifting my focus to do one thing at a time. Either play the game on the tablet or watch a video on the tablet or focus on the TV, or when I'm working on the computer, don't switch back and forth between social media and email. Just laying it out there and being real. So the object is to remind ourselves that we are the totality of our experience. And when we find ourselves in those situations where we are relying on divine guidance, we experience peace and harmony and joy, and things move in our lives. And I can equate that to the move. First of all, identifying what are the possible ways we can save the building. We can generate the additional income that is required to expand our programs that is going to attract more people into the center, into this process. And so just a tribute to our Board of Trustees, our expanding Board of Trustees that partnered with the ecclesiastical team, and we began visioning about what are the possibilities. And we looked at rental options. We even had a sign and created a brochure and did our own internal marketing for ways to save the building, divine guidance and operation. And then when we discovered that that wasn't working for us the way we thought it would work, then we went into the fear and chaos. We went into the doubt. Well, what are we doing wrong? And then we began investigating other possibilities about rent and discovered that in order to generate the income that we needed to provide on a monthly basis, that it would require renting more than the portion of the building that is allowed for the IRS tax deduction. So our nonprofit status would be in jeopardy. And so divine guidance again, what is next? What is next? And we kept asking the question, what is next? And as we're going along in our lives, and as we're looking for ways to identify and bring ourselves out of that self-doubt, the question to ask is, what? What is next? What is next? Don't worry about the how. This is where our practices, our spiritual practices, guide us into that way of recognizing and knowing that the how is worked out and is revealed through divine guidance. God is always working in the background for our highest and for our best. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, writes in the Science of Mind textbook, no matter what the outside appearance, we must cling steadfastly to the knowledge that God is good and God is all underneath, above, and round about. And so as we begin our journey of doubt this month, we start with self-doubt. And it is the most personal and universal form of doubt, something nearly all of us have experienced. Self-doubt is the foundation of other forms of doubt within our communities, our spirituality, and even our relationships with the divine. How many of us have been in those places where we have doubted God, or where we have doubted the direction that is coming to us? Or we've doubted when a family member has succumbed to an illness and we prayed the fervent prayer. We had the practitioners, we had the ministers, we had all of our communities praying for us, and the answer did not come as we wanted it. And yet, it was the appropriate answer for the circumstances and for that particular event. You know, and normally we relate that to the prayer for recovery for an illness, from an illness, or prayer for the recovery of a loved one. But in other situations in our lives where the outcome is not what we expected, we doubt. We say, God, where were you? You know, you left me in the midst of this. How can I trust again? You know, and it's okay to be at that level of honesty with Spirit, because that's when we become vulnerable and open to the divine guidance that is leading us. Our world is a story punctuated by subtle kindness. We can pause and remind ourselves that this is true. We temporarily disconnect from kindness when we believe that we are not enough. We fall into similar patterns of thinking. We tend to retreat and hide, creating disconnection from both community and spirit. It's like individuals who have trouble with substance abuse, with alcohol or drugs or other behaviors that are frowned upon when used in excess. And often they will disappear, and you find them and you'll see them somewhere along the roadway, and they'll say, been missing you. Say, well, I kind of fell off the wagon. Well, when you fall off the wagon, that's the time to be back in spiritual community. That's the time to come back in for the support and for the guidance. When we accept self-doubt as a natural part of being a human, we resist the pull towards isolation and illusion, opening ourselves to the ongoing experiences of God through authentic and vulnerable community. Self-doubt is as natural as hunger. It's normal to have a healthy part of the human experience, yet we often treat it as a flaw to correct or a weakness to overcome. In our pursuit of what's possible, we may inadvertently overlook or even demonize the natural elements in human psychology and development. Self-doubt, like tiredness, hunger, or excitement, is nearly a universal experience that signals something vulnerable, a moment to pause, to reflect, and perhaps reassess, the time to go within and to reflect on our spiritual principles. When we reject or suppress uncomfortable emotions such as self-doubt, we lose the opportunity to understand ourselves more deeply and to grow from them. Accepting self-doubt is part of everyday life to honor our full humanity and all of its complexity, embracing both our confidence and our uncertainty as equally important aspects of our journey toward wholeness. Breaking the doubt taboo. Self-doubt on its own is not inherently harmful. It is simply part of being human. And we'll find this theme over and over, the reminder that self-doubt is not the bad rap that it gets. It's part of being human. And so as we embrace that which is a part of who we are, we can move away from hiding out in self-doubt. And we can become even more deeply connected to Spirit. And this is where our spiritual communities come in to support us. In spiritual communities, we find the focus that can be positive, focus on affirmations, and only looking for the good. That is one aspect where spiritual community can both be a service and a disservice. Because if the focus is only on positivity, only on affirmations, and only on looking good, that becomes a form of spiritual bypass, because we're not addressing the issue that is in front of us. For those experiencing doubt, it may feel as though you have no safe place to speak openly or seek understanding. And I have not experienced this myself, and I've been in this teaching for over 30 years. However, I understand that some of the more traditional or conservative religious scientists, this is only a story, so I have no evidence that it's true, but the story is when someone came forth and revealed an issue that they were struggling with, a challenge that was in their mind or a challenge that was on their heart, rather than offering a listening ear, the response was, what's wrong with your consciousness? Well, if I'm going through a bucket of whatever you want to describe it as, I don't want anybody asking me where was my consciousness. I wouldn't have stepped into it if I was consciously aware. So when we come into our communities and we break through the taboo of doubt, we create the spaces where honesty is valued, vulnerability is met with compassion, and connection can flourish even amidst uncertainty. And this is the container that I am proud to say that I stepped into when I came to the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living as your minister. It is a community of love. It is a community of openness. It is a community of affirming. It is a community where you can come and bear your all and not be judged, be loved, be appreciated, be recognized, be acknowledged. This is what we're not leaving behind. This is what we're taking with us, because this is the community that we are. And wherever we go, we take ourselves. So let's take all of us, because it is all of us that creates our community. Self-doubt can be a doorway and a connection and a reflection. The way through self-doubt is not to banish it, but to meet it without shame, treating it as a starting point for exploration, honesty, and vulnerability. In those moments of self-doubt, we can gently redirect our attention from shame to curiosity by asking, what is this feeling showing me? What is this feeling showing me? What might it invite me to learn? What might it invite me to learn? This shift in attention creates space for reassurance, a dialogue, and authentic engagement. Rather than isolating us, self-doubt, when honored rather than silenced, can draw us closer to each other, erasing the frustration and the loneliness that so often accompanies it, and allowing us the feeling to exist without suppression. We play full on. We put our all in the game. And so each one of us is a manifestation of the one perfect and complete divine. Each of us is human and has the privilege of exploring divine perfection in human incarnation with all of its messiness. Throughout our lives, we find ourselves in that chrysalis situation which is transforming. And transformation can get real messy if you dive into it and stick with it And on the other side of that mess is so much beauty. Ask me how I know. So much beauty, so much beauty. And so I have a couple of practices that I would like for us to engage in this week. The first one is a breathing exercise. And it's simply to breathe out doubt and breathe in clarity. So let's practice this for a moment. So everybody take a deep breath and clear the lungs out. Take a deep breath. Another deep breath in, release it. And another deep breath in, and when you release this time, hold the release, hold the out breath. So let's breathe in, breathing out, breathing in, breathe out and hold. Let's do that again. And now let's add the mantra to it. So breathing out, take a deep breath out. You're breathing out doubt. And now on the inhale, we're breathing in clarity. And the affirmation that goes along with that is, whatever I ought to know, I shall know. Whatever I ought to do, I shall do. Whatever belongs to me will come to me. And this is from our founder, Ernest Holmes. And our next practice is another physical practice, and we can do this one together. So I'll set it up, and then we'll practice. So when those feelings of doubt come in, clap your hands and loudly say, doubt out. And then bring your hands to your heart and say, faith in its place. So let's practice that. You have a feeling of doubt, so you say, doubt out. And then bring your hands to your heart and say, faith in its place. Let's do that again. Doubt out, faith in its place. Doubt out, faith in its place. Doubt out, faith in its place. Then decide what it is that you want. And so let us turn within. As we embrace this idea that self-doubt is a part of the human experience. And what I know to be true is that there is only one life, only one power, only one presence that is expressing itself in all forms. This is what I call God, and I know that there are many names and many traditions that use other words or phrases or expressions. So whatever resonates with you in your own heart as an identifier for the supreme being, for the higher self, for the creator of all, just acknowledge that and be there now, knowing that each one of us is one with the God of our own identity, the God of our own heart. And so as we breathe into this space, we breathe in that comfort and that love of this eternal essence that is always present with us. And as we breathe out, we let go of any feelings of unworthiness or doubt or fear, anything that would create a false idea of a separation from our connection with Spirit. And so on this day, May 3rd, 2026, I speak my word knowing that love and only love prevails, that everything in life is working in divine order, that everything is always working out for our highest and best good. And so as I let go of those places in my life where I feel resistance, where I feel anger, where I feel resentment, where I feel being upset over nothing, I let it all go. And I focus on the good that is in my life. I focus on the joy that is in my life. I focus on the love that is in my life. I focus on the peace that is in my life. knowing that where I place my attention, that is what I receive more of. And so as we travel along this journey of life, we travel united in the oneness of spirit. And so I bless spaces and places where people are gathering in the name and nature of the one life, the one love, and the one power. And knowing that there may be paths, there may be places and points along the way where our paths intersect. Those intersection points are places to express joy and love and recognize the presence of another beloved soul. Letting go of traditions or dogmas or anything that separate, and focus on the unity of the one life, the divine creative spirit expression in all of its forms. I bless those people that are experiencing transitions in their lives, the transitions of loved ones, the transitions for new locations, new homes, new places to gather. The transition of moving from one level of divine livelihood to another level of divine livelihood, knowing that everything is always working out for the highest and best. And for those requests that remain within the recesses of our heart, knowing that the answer is always yes. I embrace this truth, knowing that it is done. And so in gratitude, I just allow all of this to be. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, please affirm it with me as we say together, and so it is, and so it is. And now let us say together our community affirmation for the week, and the words are on our monitor. I accept my doubt as an opportunity to learn. I accept my doubt as an opportunity to learn. And that is our challenge for the week. Actually, it's a life challenge if we choose to accept it. And so it is now time for our offering, and I want to thank you for the way that you abundantly show your gratitude for our spiritual community and help to support not only the sustaining of the building itself. I think it's a time universally to shift from the focus on raising funds to care for the building. The focus is on the money that is required to maintain a spiritual community, which includes the building, it includes the activities, it includes the programs, it includes the expansion that we want to make. So all of this requires money. And I thank you for your generous contributions to our community. And so we have an affirmation of abundance that I would invite us to say together. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And there are also ways to donate to our center. Please note, we have a new mailing address, which is P.O. Box 804, Monterey, California, 93942. Notice the difference in the zip code for the post office boxes. You may also text to give at 831-246-9694. And you may also donate online to montereycsl.org/donate. And all electronic donations are safe and secure and are processed through breeze.com, which is a pretty universally accepted source for donations. And so as we prepare to say good morning and goodbye to our Facebook and YouTube community, I've asked our tech team to put together a slide with our new location. And we have this. So these are pictures of the exterior of our new location, number 52 Soledad Drive, Monterey. And you'll see the exterior, the top picture is from the street level, and the lower picture is from the parking lot entrance. There's an upper parking lot and a lower parking lot. And you know, after service, if you want to drive by, just go straight up Pacific until it dead ends at Soledad. Make a right turn, and there are 3 residences, and then the Great Beginning School. And we are sharing space with the space that is owned by Great Beginning School. So that's where we will be starting next week. So for those of you in our viewing community of Monterey as a destination, please make note of our new address. And we invite you to join us next week as we continue our May series, Divine Doubt. And the talk will be Debunking the Self-Doubt. The ramifications of sharing our personal doubts together and creating communities that hold a space for our questioning moments. So again, we say thank you for joining us and being a part of our community. We love you, and we will see you the next time.